Once again, I find myself on the streets of Worthing in West Sussex during lockdown. This is day 3, I think, of official lockdown. I'm walking in a little twitten here, rather beautiful little back alley between the houses of the Victorian expansion, I suppose, in Worthing in the late 1900s, I guess. I'm going down to the seafront because I want to see what that's like during lockdown. If you remember the first lockdown, people were going to the seafront, sitting on beaches, sitting on park benches and having generally a good time of it. Well, it's slightly different weather, of course, now in November, but people no doubt will want to go and have a bit of a stroll on the beach, on the prom particularly. So I'm going to go down and have a little look at that. Now, I know I've recently done a video down on the seafront in Worthing when Sean James Cameron came down with the lovely Julia. This is somewhat different because I had trouble with my gimbal and my camera in a previous video, and I was having a bit of a strop over it. So I actually partly want to just test that this is still working and worthy of usage. My impression before lockdown was that I wondered how many people were going to stay in quite the way that they did last time. We don't have quite the same restrictions. We are allowed out for our exercise. We can go to work if we need to, and we can go shopping and what have you. But there was a sense, I think, that a number of people and businesses who were dependent and had been shocked by what had happened before would go on regardless. I don't want to comment about that here, but it's just interesting to get a sense of how busy it is on this lockdown. I know it's quite early in, and we'll see what the restrictions are going to be. So quite lucky today, we've got a bit of a sunny morning. We've had, as is typical, it seems, during lockdowns, the sun comes out. So I'm just making my way down to the seafront, not in the most glamorous part of Worthing, I have to say. But from my house, it's the most direct. I'm now in Steen Gardens, which is one of the formal gardens here in Worthing. We have a lot of events that go on here, not this year, of course. And there's quite some interesting buildings around here, some iconic ones for Worthing. We've got these buildings at the far end behind me, Victorian buildings. We've got the Chesworth Hotel and churches and various things. And there's some lovely trees here, including London planes, which is always nice to see. Now, I'm hoping that I've gauged this about right, that the tide is going to be out. We've seen in recent videos with the tide in. I'm hoping that I can get further out on the beach. So if I've got my timings right, that would be lovely. So it's supposed to be low tide according to the timetables, and I guess in the winter, I hadn't really studied this, and I've only lived in Worthing for 30 odd years, that depending on the season, I'm guessing that the tide does different things, not in terms of going in and out, it still goes in and out, and it has a high tide and a low tide, but the amount of low tide, I think, must be different. Someone's going to correct me. It just goes to show how much one actually knows about the place you live in. But I'm going to go down and have a look and see what we see. There's always that lovely crunch on the shingles as you head down towards the sand. I think I would miss living by the sea. It's one of those things I take for granted, that you can just come down to the water's edge. when I used to write my children's books, which I haven't done now for a few years because, well, there didn't seem to be any profit in it at all other than the joy of writing, and now I've been concentrating on the videos. I would come down though for a break from the writing desk to come down here and just take in the atmosphere, and at different times of the year and different days there's always a different feeling, and it's something that I very much enjoy. And I think sometimes I forget that we have this incredible beach, and I don't share it enough on the videos. I think lockdown gives us a perfect time to explore our local area. We're forced to stay in, and we're forced to go and have just simple exercise, and I think sometimes we forget the beauty around us. Now, that's not true for everybody, of course. Some people are living in desperate squalor, so I am making very broad sweeping statements. I appreciate that. But we're so busy with life, going to work, thinking that they are the most important things, but sometimes just taking the time to look at what beauty there is around you is equally important. And so although I abhor the lockdown and I think it is a breach of our civil rights, at the same time one has to then embrace that and say, okay, what are the positive aspects of it? One of the things I do like to do, apart from walk in silhouette, is to go underneath the pier. We went on the pier in the recent video with Sean and Julia, but occasionally I have come down here to look under the pier, and it is it's interesting what you can find if you've got the time. I just love the underside because of the Victoriana and the appreciation of the architecture and the manufacturing that went in to make it, and the fact that it's still standing with the tide coming in and out. That just surprises me. These piers that go down must go down a terrific way in order to brace themselves against the force of the water. This is just absolutely amazing. I know we can do this these days probably much easier with bigger machines, but the fact that these people did it back when they did it just never ceases to amaze me. It's great to see all the barnacles and the incrustations where the water continually hits it. I get the feeling the tide is actually coming in. It must have turned, so I don't know what tide tables I was reading. Well, I'm not too sure how the results are, and I'll look at this in the edit, of course, when I put this together. But actually I've got back into enjoying using the gimbal and the shots, so I'm hoping that things are in focus and that actually everything's been recorded all right. It does give me a certain amount of freedom, but as I've mentioned before, I think I am looking for another high-end camera which will give me even more freedom and the ability not to have to hold such a clunky bit of apparatus. But I'm pleased that it's not completely useless. I did get myself, as I mentioned earlier, in a bit of a strop with the gimbal. It's an expensive bit of kit, so I don't really want to find that it was absolutely useless. So it seems to be working. Right, last bit then, I'm going to go back up onto the prom and have a look at that, and then I think that's it for this video. Look at the boat here, freshly painted. It looks absolutely amazing. One of the prides of Worthing for me is the fishermen that go out and catch the fish. Now, I don't actually eat fish, it's not something I can stomach really, but I love the fact that here on the seaside the early traditions of Worthing still continues after thousands of years. Fishermen would have been fishing, of course, in the sea, and you can still buy your fish if you come down from the little blue boxes that we have down here, and that's just fantastic. And I'm assuming that these guys can still go out in lockdown, there's no problem, and people can probably come back here and buy fresh fish, and that's just great to see. Well, the promenade and the town are slowly getting themselves together and waking up, and some sort of business will be going on, but I'm going to head back now and make myself a cup of tea and maybe have a bit of breakfast. I came out without eating anything, so I'm quite ravenous now. Thank you for watching this video. It's been mostly a test, but also it's been a joy to go down onto the seafront and actually have a look at the seaside. So I'm going back via Steen Gardens back to where I live, and I will catch you out and about on the next one. Take care, look after yourselves, keep safe and all those usual things, and bye bye for now. Bye bye.